Okay, so this is the management portion of our meeting. Where is everybody?
That's a good question.
No.
Kate's got meetings.
Oh gosh.
Kate always has meetings on Tuesday. She has one at 1, so that's always her heart out. So I'm just looking for that. Yeah. All right. Well, then the main things we wanted to sort of talk about from the 30,000 foot view was 209A, which maybe we'll wait till Caroline or Kate can jump on. Then we wanted to talk about forms and getting those ready to give to students Quentin and I have. So we'll pull up the triage form thing and see if we can add stuff to that. And then I'm not sure if there are any other like big management things we need to talk about, or we can talk about anything that other people want to bring up. I mean, there's definitely plenty we could talk about, but like as far as things like we need to talk about, there's not that. I think, Michelle, you'll be happy to know I had a nice call with Aubrey yesterday about her final project. And it was funny, we landed on her exploring the mass courts data one. And she had a very funny comment about, well, you'll have to convince him. And so it was funny because I brought it up and it was clear she had the conversation with you, and I thought it was funny. I had to explain to her the entire Aaron Schwartz story and all the background and why we were particularly skittish, especially here in Massachusetts.
I'm not hearing anything.
I'm here.
We can hear you.
Don't say anything rude.
Let's see what Noah's doing.
Now she's muted.
Now you're muted, Caroline.
Those were the two things, the 209A.
It's still
and what was the
muted.
other thing I mentioned?
Identifying forms for new students.
Yeah. And then if we want, we can talk about appeals, but I don't think there's much for us to decide on there. The forms for new students is something that we as a group, I think, should
just talk a little bit about, I think we could spend a lot of time wordsmithing, but maybe just take a quick look at the feature.
Yes, yeah.
Rubric. Actually, Mark had a really good suggestion. Mark Lauritsen had a good idea for what to rename it.
What are you talking about? Sorry, Quentin.
So I came up with last week we talked about coming up with a feature set. For the
feature what?
A feature set that would help us guide milestone. And we said one thing is maybe we can show that to users. I don't
put it in the Zoom chat.
But we definitely want to show it to help developers use it to guide what features included.
What constitutes an MVP?
Yeah, and I think it's important even around, right? So like, you work on something that's at level 4.
All right. This is the kind of thing that Michelle was talking about, right? I mean, we were all talking about it, but yeah.
Which part did I talk about?
Yeah, you were saying, can we have some sort of, I thought what you were saying is some sort of outline or framework or guideline to when something is MVP.
Yeah, I think when Quentin was equally enthusiastic.
All right, I'm not.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. No, and I think this is a great, a great start.
It's a formal outgrowth of all of those discussions.
Yeah.
So let's do this. Let's touch 209A real quick. Then let's talk form, level status, whatever we're going to call this thing, because I think that'll inform what we choose for forms for the students. But let's make sure that we don't let that conversation go so long that we don't have time to choose some forms. Okay. So quick bit, Caroline, let's put you on the spot. 209A. How are you feeling about that?
So it's a house. Okay, so I met with Kate. I showed you guys what you suggested. We talked about reminders. I wasn't able to do anything on it again until early this morning. So I'm working about putting doing the technical stuff, and I'm doing some editing of the questions because we have like 4 issues. So I'm trying to pull them all together, put them into one little thing, run that whole thing by Kate and you guys again, possibly, just to see if this is what we're thinking. Like any other last minute, can we come up with any other ideas for reminders, all that stuff. So that's where I am with that. I think that's the only. And then and Quentin, you saw my comment about attaching extra files like the police records and stuff. So I can't drag. I tried dragging, I couldn't drag. I can upload. And then there was one other thing that I think would be helpful, and maybe we don't need to do it for the court. Maybe we don't have to do it for the court issue, but this other thing that's important that Kate brought up is before I leave 209A, I want to work, have these multiple downloads that Michelle's been working on with the eviction moratorium, so that if people do need to email their file, they're not emailing instructions along with it. So that's where I am with that.
Okay.
The moratorium is, I mean, from everything, I think the ball's kind of in other people's court because it's ready. I've done as much as I think. I think it's just the next steps document and then it's ready to go. So I meet with Mariah at 2:00 today, or after Teaching Tuesday or whenever. So hopefully we'll be able to, yeah,
do that.
It might, Maeve, I might talk to you later about timing because I might go to Caroline and Mariah's.
No stress.
I'm here. Sure it's needed.
We can also,
that sounds good.
talk on Wednesday. Today's Tuesday. We can also talk on Wednesday if you're free, Michelle.
I think I should be.
Okay.
That's good. That's moving along. Yeah, so that's moving along. All right, then, Quentin, since it's your brainchild here, do you want to take us for a spin through PDF Plus, et cetera, et cetera?
Sure. So I had this is, I think, what I tried to do is a comprehensive inventory of features and then think about where I would group them into like coherent milestones. And what's nice is I got some feedback on this from Mark Lauritsen and Bart Earl, who Caroline, and not everyone else does, but they've been doing this document assembly work for a long time in different platforms, and HotDocs is the one that they've used. Sorry. And I'm not sure if it makes sense to go through all the features. It probably does not. But I think we could talk about like the basic descriptions. So here, I think for PDF, this is what I'm calling level 1. PDF Plus is a placeholder label. And the idea here is the user can correctly fill in every field in the PDF. And then we have some like very basic kinds of protections. Most importantly, I think we would still want to have an SME review it before anything would go live to catch errors, not to give us all their expert feedback on how to make it better, but to catch errors. I think Michelle correctly pointed out that having character limits, even though it's actually a really time-consuming step, is potentially something that would go with this too.
Well, yeah, because if it's supposed to meet the PDF that the courts put on, they're going to have character limits.
Yeah, or at least it would be visible when you exceed those limits.
Right, yeah.
So this is something where actually I don't think all of our forms have now. So it's something to think about because there wasn't a really good, easy mechanism for doing it. So I think we could definitely improve our wizard to have this feature, which is something to consider doing if we want that to be MVP. Really everything that goes into this MVP PDF Plus level really should be automated as much as possible.
Sure.
Because the whole point there is we could do rapid iteration, and I think that's pretty important. Bart's point was there's some features, hey, maybe you can start on them early and we should let people do that. My thought is these are all optional features, but in general, I'm thinking like, okay, you can have 1 or 2 extra features from a higher level, but other than that, you should do a feature freeze, get it out the door when you meet that milestones target. Basic form is the next level, and then I think the description is you're doing it as intake with a new-ish legal aid employee. That's kind of my summary of it. I put some features in there. One of the ones that Bart called out is the cover page. That, hey, you can do that as independent. But I think he's used to projects with an SME who's dedicated to it and who's like maybe the project manager. I think that's really a place where we could lose. It could be a real time sink if we wait for an expert to help us vet a cover page for every form that we release.
Don't you have a cover page in the first? Or the cover page in you have a cover
The
page in
next
the.
steps cover page is what I'm talking about.
Sorry, I don't understand the difference between the two cover pages.
We have a cover page that gives the contact information of the user to the court.
Oh, I see what you're
That's
saying.
all.
Gotcha. Okay.
What we don't have is one that's aimed at the user, giving them information about what to do next.
Right.
And if you look at this, one of my concerns is that this first step is like almost completely automated. And this step has a lot of manual attention. So I don't know if there's an in-between refining milestone that we want to promote. So if people have thoughts on that, I'd love to hear those.
I think a step where the language is adjusted.
Let me just go through all, if that's okay.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to go into all the details. I just wanted to call out those things that people look at later. So
Things to think about, yeah.
number 3 would be what I'm calling an advanced form, and there it's more like working with an experienced legal aid attorney. But we're still talking about relatively basic features. It's contained in through your 1 session. And then this is more like a solution-oriented tools, level 4, where like the 209A, it's really a lot more holistic as trying to help the user with the problem that they have. It's not just about filling in the form really well. It's about what form do I need? How can I get some guidance about how to do it correctly? And I think our 209A really meets this level. And I think that a tool like MAID, the eviction defense tool, does too. These are really fuzzy boundaries, but I think if people keep this in mind and they're like, okay, I'm going to have 4 releases if I want to get to this feature, and I'm going to release with the minimum features for the level before I implement the next feature, it can help us get things out the door faster. I don't think we can go through all of the features, but yeah, I guess we could talk about the framework right now and other thoughts people have, like after seeing this laid out a bit.
And I want to keep it a short conversation to the sort of high-level ideas, and we can use those high-level ideas then to help us choose forms that we want people to work on. And then over time, obviously, we'll refine these. First thing I just want to throw out is that maybe we don't limit ourselves in the language here. And I know this was the intention of PDFs. So we come up with an idea, whatever the base is. It could be a PDF or a docx or a existing form, whatever the base is we call for an existing document.
We could obviously call this MVP, but I realized that what we've been calling MVP is more like level 2 or 3 in this rubric.
Well, but that's part of this is adjusting our concept of what MVP is, right?
Or defining it at least, you know. Because what we've been putting out is not MVP. We've been calling it that, but
yeah. So we could just say, okay, it's really only people in our team who have to retrain, so maybe we're okay with having our label be MVP.
I agree with that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And also just constantly reminding people when using this rubric to indicate what MVP actually is, right? Because we found that in the last cohort of team members, people did fall into that trap of adding more and more and more. And, you know, I didn't point out that is this actually MVP, or we just kind of ran with it. So just constantly going back to this.
My concern just is that MVP, I'm sort of going back to that very beginning, is if it's easier to fill out the form than a fillable PDF, it's easy, the consequences, bad consequences, you can experience bad consequences more easily. And one of the things that across the board in Canada and in the United States, when people leave the court with a court decision, they often have no idea what to do, what happens next. And so I'm not going to push it or be vehement or anything, but I am concerned about getting this PDF that you filled out, you have on your computer, the PDF, your form that you filled out, you have on your computer, and then what on earth do you do with it? And so that worries me a little bit, that we don't tell people what they can do with it. And I think that's substantive, because you know, housing I mean, not only just substantive area from court to court, from type of complaint, motion, whatever, to others, because people don't know what filing is. And those are, or service. I mean, we know from the court service centers that service is the biggest issue. And we're just avoiding that altogether.
So I think maybe one of the solutions here is we've sort of treated this, to your issue, Caroline, is we've treated this here as having a monolithic audience, but we know we don't have a monolithic audience. So MVP for one audience might be different than MVP for another audience.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe we don't call it MVP if it seems too universal, but the point is there is a release that can go out at that time that maybe is not the, you know, it's the difference between sort of like a private beta and a public beta.
Yeah.
Between going out to like attorneys and people who are going to use. I think what should just be, maybe we do, is we put a check in saying that something that has to be established is the appropriate audience.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And because the other thing I mean, I agree, David, yes, I agree with you. I think that I would feel better about that. It's like, if these are for advocates, although advocates realistically may just fill out the forms they always fill out. But I'm even thinking in probate and family court, they have their forms section. Next to almost all their forms is also instructions. Even if the instructions aren't very good, there are some instructions there. So, and our form, of course, has some instructions in the creation of it. It's just like, here do I have, and the other part of that is because it's electronic, and people are trying to deal with this stuff on they're so muddled often by how computers work, that I would hate to have it be just one more burden making people crazy and full of tears than they already are.
So I think the problem we want to avoid is context collapse, right? So it's that someone just finds this form in isolation,
yeah,
and then uses it inappropriately. So I don't think that has to stop it from being the MVP. I think it just means we need to add context to the form.
Yeah.
So,
right. That makes sense. I feel good about that then. I'm fine with that.
I do think it's worth pointing out, and it's not necessarily saying that we have to meet the same test, but like, so someone had a question about the TRO, and I was like, oh, where exactly did the court link that on their website? Look up like housing, TRO, mass.gov. I think it's like a good example.
2 spots. There's the one you found. There's another one too. I can't remember where it is. But there were 2 spots.
This is the courts form webpage, which people are definitely finding because it has a really high Google rank. Mm-hmm. And just a bunch of PDFs for use in housing court. That's the description they give for this one.
Yeah.
So this, I think, goes back to the idea that
at least for the Zin better. And I see your point, Caroline, like by letting them access it more easily, we maybe are making it more dangerous than it was when it was just a blank form. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I cut you off, David.
No, I think you were making the same point. I think it's, yeah, we do something that's as good as this, but better. And yes, that might be in some context dangerous, but I also think the thing is all these things are going to be in context, right? So
yeah,
I think maybe we don't call that first one MVP, we call it level 1, and there might be forms like the 209A that don't release at level 1. It's not safe to release at level 1.
Yeah, they're not appropriate. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So MVP maybe is misleading there. MVP would be
that's where
that's
where the title PDF Plus was really useful, and I'm not sure we have to point it out. I think we all know that PDF Plus also includes DocX. You know,
well, we don't have to reach consensus on labels, and so I get your point. Like, that's a good label for us internally. It may not be the same label we use externally eventually.
Yeah.
I get your point. Is there something like that captures the fact that, I mean, people get what a PDF is because they know they can type in a PDF.
Form. It's just really just a web form. It's a web form.
What about blank form?
I was going to say basic form, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's not even
Blank
basic
form plus,
right?
yeah.
I do think we have a lot more we can do. And I'll just give you like a summary of things like having branch logic being required, having required.
I can't hear you, Quentin. David, could you mute yourself for a sec? Thanks. Go ahead, Quentin.
It's things like having plain language be required I really do feel like those are things that we should do after we've finished the first fill-in stage of the form and want to really do a new release. Like, but those are time-consuming steps. But I think those are basic steps, right? But I think we want to release something that is useful for advocates and people who otherwise would only find the blank PDF. Sorry. Before we even are ready to call what we would, I think, fairly call basic. But maybe the answer is we have an in-between stage, which is also something I was kind of thinking about.
I also think there's a way we could just say we have these 4 levels. Every form is assessed, and by default, the assumption is the MVP corresponds with the first level. But that's a rebuttable presumption presented that the subject matter expert can, argue for. And then you can say, oh, well, in 209A, we're not going to release with level 1, we'll release with level 3 as MVP. But for most forms, level 1 is going to be the way to go. And then we additionally can be context specific, so that we can say, well, we're going to release this at level 1, but we're going to release it at level 1 over here in this way that only these people can access it. Whereas we're not going to, if we're talking about in the context of the Mass Access project, releasing something doesn't always mean putting it up on our front page, right? So we've done that already with a couple of forms where we just have passed them around listservs.
Although I do think putting things on our front page is another motivating factor here. I think it's an important one to keep people engaged in our process, and also for people just to have a picture into our work, even when it's not what we think as good as it will eventually get.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think that there might be some forms like the 209A that we don't want to release at level 1.
Yeah. No, and you're saying I think release those to advocates before they're released because of their danger. But most forms you can release.
That's why, default rebuttable presumption. That is right. So what we do is basically we kind of like these 4 areas in a general shape.
The other thing I think is kind of cool, if we think about, I'm still thinking about these level 1s. A good context for those would be court service centers, particularly when things start to open up, because then people know what to do with them. And if we are teaming up with court service centers who are using these, then we'll get a lot of the kind of information we need, because they'll be giving people all the time. So I think that would be, that's kind of a cool second step.
Yeah, I like that point.
Which second steps?
The second step is the court service center. So it's like a built-in pool of people who can't give advice but are used to the forms.
And also know what the next steps are, so they can, they might even be able to help us with next steps, because they're helping people do these forms, and they will be telling people what to do with these forms when they get them.
And it's also worth pointing out that this was kind of the vision of Appleseed's virtual court service center, right? Although everything overlaps. So anyway, at least we're something.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure we have conversation to have some time to talk about forms.
Which forms we're going to assign.
Yeah, which forms we're going to assign. Do we generally, we can argue about the fuzziness of the borders and what features are in bounds for which one. But do we think that 4 different levels is the right granularity, the right specificity for saying our spectrum of forms from simple to more complex? Does that seem about right?
I think
it's definitely bigger than 2. I feel like it's more than 2. And
4 to 5. 4 to 5 seems good.
Where would you add another level, Michelle? I'm just curious. Would it be between 1 and 2, or at a higher?
Between 1 and 2.
Okay. That's kind of where I was tempted to see if we could fit something also. It's hard to figure out what's a good, meaningful milestone in between, though.
Okay,
I think it's a very small step, but I think it's a nice and short one. It's just basically a matter of but you didn't want to, you wanted to not discuss that right now. So
No, but I think we're saying where it would
go.
We're
at the biggest buckets. So as long as the discussion
between 1 and 2. All right, there you go. I already said that. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're saying that it would just be the addition of language review to level 1 would give you level 2.
Plain language
Pretty
review?
close to that. Pretty close to that.
All right.
Okay.
Do you have
that actually makes a lot of sense.
Again, not in terms of But the resource, but it's changing all the time. Our resource has been developers over the summer, and it seems like it will be more during the school year, although there'll be baby developers. Anything that doesn't require a bottlenecked resource, which includes like plain language review and expert review, right? That's why I was thinking we postpone those features. But that's an interesting point. We don't have to go into the details of it, but.
Yeah, and we might come up with a language review that's not a language expert language review. Right?
Okay.
It could be a like language review with the style guide. You know?
They've gone through it on their own and
Yeah.
turn
That's a really good idea, David.
So we avoid the bottleneck problem, but we also avoid the problem of no one having looked at it.
Right.
But we
And
can
a
work
lot
out
of
those.
language, yeah.
I think it feels like, and please someone tell me if I'm wrong, it feels like we have general agreement on the shape of this. We're saying 4 to 5 levels. We'll specify what the levels are, but it seems like we have the general sense. Feels about right to everyone. Is that correct? I get a visual confirmation.
maybe we can even call this 1.5. It's so small.
I just want to ask, the thing is, if you have 1.5 is we're having maybe language review with the style guide. This same thing about the question, you know, in one of those I saw a feature that was a combination question broken into simple questions.
Right.
What level is that?
So I put it between levels 2 and 3. Bart said, hey, you should do this right away.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. Well, maybe not 1, but that one go into that 1B, 1B, 1A.
Sorry, I put it between 1 and 2. So maybe that would be part of the
1.5.
So
Yeah.
That was the other thing that I would include there, yeah.
I think this is good. I think it's productive. But I want to make sure that we move on so we have folks who have jumped on for the normal stand-up.
Hello.
Hi, Luke. Hey, Kate.
Hi, guys.
Hi, sorry, I forgot that we meet.
That's okay. I remember that you have a standing meeting at 1. So I want to make sure that you have an opportunity right now.
It's at 1:15 today. Got pushed back.
the next one.
So Kate, I want to make sure you have an opportunity to say your piece. Caroline already sort of touched base on some of the 209A stuff, and basically talked about some edits and stuff she was doing and ready to do. I don't know, Caroline, do you want to do you have code words that you could say, I said this, and then Kate would know what you said, and then she'd know whether or not to add anything?
Caroline probably.
Well, I think you could say it really quickly, right? It's like, oh, I talked about the thing we did on Tuesday, and then
I basically started doing the technical application of what we talked about on Friday, coding Friday, and your issue that your multiple issue that you found for me that I couldn't find with the police. Where you're breaking up the question.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got a good plan for the 209A.
Yeah.
All right.
What's going on with the financial statement?
Katie reviewed that and gave it to Lily, and I think they're not paired programming. They're not, and I think Lily wants a meeting with Katie and me, or Katie and you, and or you and me. And anyway, Lily, I think, wants a meeting on it. So, and I haven't looked at it carefully enough.
Yeah, I think when I last looked at it, it definitely needed a lot.
Yeah, I don't think she's done anything with it because she didn't feel like she had enough. I think she needs a little bit more to get the teamwork on that one. And Kate, would you put the financial statement before contempt?
In terms of importance, yes. In terms of the contempt is one page and the financial statement is like a billion fields, maybe not, with like math and stuff.
I think she's done all that.
You've done all the math?
Yeah, I think the financial statement needs to be reviewed, whereas the contempt we need to finish building it. Because I sort of feel like so anyway, maybe you and I should talk about this, not in this meeting, but those are where we are now, I think.
Yeah, maybe financial statement should be higher priority. I mean, it's everyone uses it.
And so time consuming for advocates when it doesn't need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
And then like opposing parties resisting doing their finances will have less of an excuse because they can just do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's probably a good segue in the conversation about forms then, which is where we wanted to go. I know Maeve and Luke might have some stand-up stuff that we want to get to as well, but I'm trying to figure out about the ordering.
Well, Luke, it might be worth checking in with Luke and seeing, Luke, you and Anna had a chance to meet. I'm curious to make sure you guys start.
So she thought she had Adobe Acrobat, and it turns out she didn't have access to it. So I got a free trial, and we did the form. We did all the fields and like naming them according to the GitHub thing that Maeve sent me.
Yeah.
The naming convention. So we also added, according to I think what you said, Quentin, about another page that has additional spaces for if they've changed their name more than 3 times.
Oh yeah, the addendum.
An addendum.
So so now there's 6 spots for previous names.
Oh, okay. All right, so that'll be like an optional page that you add in only if they...
Yeah, if they say they have more, then... So I think now what we have to do is just kind of... I don't know if anyone wants to like look over it to make sure we did it all right, or if we should just run it through the wizard and start working.
I think it's a better idea to have a look at it first, because it's just as we kind of discovered that down the line, you can always fix everything down the line, but it's a lot easier if you just get it we get it right the first time, especially before you run it through the wizard. So I said to Anna that I can speak to you guys. I'd like to go through it together. So but you have it on your computer, right? We can just...
Yeah, I sent it to Anna too, so we both have that.
Okay.
Access.
Quick question, Quentin, did you have particular plans for Teaching Tuesday? Or...
Oh, there's Anna.
One of the things that...
I was thinking last week we didn't have a lot of people with questions, so I invited Mike Carroll to follow up with a little chat we had this morning. So if no one else had...
We could also review the Adobe.
We can also review Luke's form, though. That's a good point.
Yeah, we can maybe split it in half.
We could probably spend like 15 or 20 minutes on Mike Carroll's questions if he comes right at 1 and is ready with them, and then we could do Luke's form if that feels time-wise okay.
Sounds good. I think it'll also be good to get that on recording.
Yeah, I saw you at the Duke open house thing too, the Duke demo day. Did you join that as well right after our call last week, I think?
Oh, I forgot about that.
Who joined that, David?
Oh, Anna, I think, was on it. I think she just put in her earphones so she didn't hear me.
Oh.
I was just saying, we were on 2 Zoom calls last week together, I think. I still can't hear you, actually.
Okay, I think Anna's nodding. She's saying yes, you were.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear for a minute.
That's fine. All right, so that gives us that. I want to try to get us back to this discussion of forms. But maybe did you have anything that you wanted to sort of stand up? You want to do a little stand up thing quick?
Yeah, so we put our interview out there. Quentin and Mia ran through it and found that we still had the make changes button up, even though we don't have any review screens. So then I did a edit and removed that. And then made another issue to add it back in post MVP. Quinta and Lance, Lance tested it and it worked, and he merged the PR, so it's ready to go. He wants it to get tested. He wants it to get like reviewed again, but that's really the only change that we've made. I don't think it's necessary. I think we can just kind of carry on with our informal testing this week and then send it to the court next week. Okay.
Kate and Caroline, you both talked about 209A. Michelle, you talked a little bit about how you think the eviction stuff is off to the way. I just want to make sure that any of the 3 of you had any other sort of stand-up-y things to talk about before we go into forms.
I'm working on a blank form plus version of one of the one of the repos I sent you was one of those, and I might want to. We're also trying to brainstorm, not just brainstorm, but talk to people about parts of the wizard. And so Luke and Anna, as you use the wizard, it would be great if, actually it'd be great if I could be there and just see you using it and what questions come up. So if maybe you can tell me when that would be, or maybe you can record it or something. And was going to talk to Maeve about that too. And
So we can do that tomorrow, Michelle.
Yeah, probably.
My evening is wide open.
Awesome. So I think, I mean, there are a couple other things, but I think those are the main things that I wanted to touch base with other people here on.
So it sounds like next actions are going to engage with Maeve, and you have some.
What do we do tomorrow?
Yep.
All right, and Caroline and Kate, was the 208 everything you needed to talk about? Right. We got Luke and Anna. And then Quentin, did you just have anything else you wanted to say before we jump into forms discussion?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we had some interesting ideas. I don't think any of them are ready that we need to talk about them in a group yet, though. But like one idea was sparked about adding the upload to the 209A. I think I should probably have that done today, with a little bit better than the MVP thing that I sent. And we talked about maybe having a feature like that available for all of our forms. LHI has it. That's kind of the main reason I'm thinking of it. But I think that they also, it makes some sense. You can always attach a document in a real in-person filing in the court, and we don't have that ability now. So think about whether to do it safely and how to expose it. I think it's a good feature to add. Our coding meetings have been really productive. Those are open if more people want to join. There's probably going to be a lot of deep dive stuff.
Yeah, aren't they a little bit high grade?
Well, we're really talking about like engineering decisions. We're not like getting into the nitty gritty of code. We're talking about like what approach should we take to solve a coding challenge. Like it's gotten to the point of like things that should be in the wizard, how we should handle letting people customize questions was a topic we did, I think, a really nice discussion on yesterday. So there are things everyone
an important one.
But obviously some of the end results will end up being technical discussion. So it's up to anyone who wants to join is very welcome. But
the technical stuff does tend to be advanced technical stuff. Engineering discussions usually takes some knowledge of kind of deeper knowledge about code and abstraction and that kind of thing. I mean, so but that doesn't mean you can't come. I think everyone, we'd be happy to have folks there. Just if that's not where you're at in life, if that's too overwhelming or whatever. Yeah. Just everyone.
So what? Excuse me, but what time is that on Mondays?
Yeah.
It's on Wednesdays, actually at 11.
No, it's on Mondays. We did the first
Mondays
one.
At 11.
Our standing meeting
Right. Mondays, yeah.
At 11.
Dad, get this on my pants.
Okay. Mondays at 11.
Put on a paper on this one.
I do love how there's competing childhood background noise from different.
What happened with the pets?
It's somebody's birthday today, isn't it?
Delightful.
Yes, it is.
The other son's. He's still in school. He's in virtual school right now. So.
Oh.
But yeah, Luke, you should definitely come to those meetings. I forgot to explicitly invite you, but you should. But anybody else, just because
you can go too. Everyone's invited. All right, let's move on to a forms discussion then. So I'm going to go ahead and share on the Zoom the link to the forms triage. We're anticipating taking this and splitting it into forms that the court has asked for and then forms that we want to work on because we started adding enough of our own at the bottom. But right now we can work with this as the starting document. And let's see if we can add like 6 forms that we actually think would be, or 6 workflows that we actually think would be useful. And we're thinking explicitly about a limited scope where a level 1 or blank plus, whatever we're calling it, would be an appropriate MVP. Because what we want to do is these want to be projects for new folks coming in from Quentin's and my class who will take it and then take it through the whole life cycle in a very slow way over the next couple months. So they're not going to come out right away. They don't have to, and we don't want them to be too complex. And they shouldn't have any like danger signs if someone just fills them out.
are we doing just court forms, or can we do all these letters to your landlord?
All these letters, things and stuff.
Okay.
So the stuff we talked
I got
about
my
last
list
week.
here.
Perfect. I was hoping you would have it. This is perfect. Okay. Yeah. So that being said, Caroline, I think you just volunteered to tell us some stuff that you would love to see on this list.
Okay, well, because the thing is, all these forms already exist on Mass Legal Help that the Housing Coalition has put together. So,
More beautiful.
I think we should do, and Quentin, you said before we've already do all the security deposit letters, right? But we have they're two security deposit return letters. One is if you don't get it after you move out, and the other one is if your landlord's broken, hasn't put your security deposit where it should go, you can ask for it while you're still living there. So we have those two security deposit letters. I don't know if you want to have those, but I know those are very popular on Mass Legal Help.
Yeah, you know what? Like I used to do it all the time when I was at Rosie's place too. I think that's a really.
And the thing that strikes me about those is those seem rather boilerplate. Perhaps we combine them into a single form, which is security deposit. And it's like,
Get
are
your
you moving
security
out? Are
deposit
you?
back yet? Have you left,
Yeah.
or are you still there? Yeah.
Sure. So we make them one, and that makes it big enough that it could be a project for someone. So it's not just like that. We're just printing a page.
Yeah. And then we've got.
And you have the Word documents for those, Caroline, I assume? Because those would definitely have those.
Yeah. I don't know if this is worth it. This is like a 2-second form, a statement of condition you can give to your landlord. If your landlord takes a security deposit from you, she's required by law to give you a statement of condition. If she does not, use this form on the next page to document the condition of your apartment when you first move in. That's easy. But then that has uploading images and stuff. I don't know if you want to combine that with the moving in checklist.
I like that. I mean, to the extent things can have an identity that people go to that's based on something other than I want this form, but it's like they have an external goal. That sounds perfect.
Okay.
I think pairing it with a moving in checklist would be nice. What else would be a natural pairing with that?
With the moving in checklist and statement of condition. Well, statement of condition is difficult but good because it's just blank. I like to combine. I like to have people look at the housing code checklist thing and have them go through the I mean, maybe that would be it. Take the housing code checklist, go through the housing code checklist when they do the statement of condition, because then they use the housing code. They use the housing code checklist for their statement of condition. So if any of these issues have a problem, they take a picture and upload it to their statement of condition.
I like this. Yeah, I am thinking like it's, well.
That's long, but it's not complicated.
No, it's good. But it's also a little bit like Just Fix, which is
exactly. It is
robust,
just like Just Fix.
Also, I think we could get something out really quickly that's very discrete part of what Just Fix.
We don't have a Just Fix in Massachusetts.
And we don't have Just Fix in Massachusetts. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Security deposit.
And just to be clear, is that separate from you mentioned two checklists. You mentioned the housing code checklist and the move-in checklist.
The move-in checklist is a much
it's not only about the housing code, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, it's a much simpler it's a simpler version of the housing code checklist. Maybe what we should do is start off with the move for our MVP, have a move-in checklist and a statement of condition. The other thing that we could go with that is a rent receipt. In case your landlord doesn't give you a rent receipt, you can give this to your landlord.
Only problem I think about that, Caroline, is like then you're saying go to this website, type this up, and then print it.
Rather, you could say to your landlord, here, you can go here for the rent receipt. Yeah. Maybe the rent receipt should be part of your statement of condition. Did your landlord give you this information? Nah. No, because you're going to get that later, rent receipt maybe.
Are you thinking like you just document it on your own, like every time you paid rent? It's more like a rent ledger you keep? and you maybe take a photo.
Oh, you know what? I was thinking if your landlord refuses to sign the rent receipt, take a photo or make a copy. Yeah, it doesn't belong in there. That would be separate. And this would be a rent ledger. Yeah.
Interesting idea. So, I mean, there, I think what we could offer that would be a benefit would be some authentication, right? You could do that.
Yeah.
But that would make it a lot more valuable. If it's not just like, these are my own records, but we can say,
Here's
hey,
here's a picture of my canceled check. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the timing is important. So people can't just upload an altered photo a
But
month later.
Could be the thing about, I mean, rent receipt doesn't belong in there. So we do statement of condition and move-in checklist, not housing code checklist, I think, for MVP. Then rent receipt is something different. Let's not do rent receipt now because I think we are talking about a ledger and people have to have an account and they have to keep coming back to it.
Okay.
Unless they want to just keep printing. I mean, if they've got canceled checks, they've got rent receipts, so I don't think that's worth it for this. Security deposit we talked about. We've got a serious, no, we don't want that one. The repair and withholding repair demand letter, repair letter and repair demand letter. Those could be one, depending on if they've sent the repair letter first, and then they could send the repair demand letter if they haven't sent the repair letter. And then rent withholding. So the three of those, I think, repair and deduct. So you could put those 4 forms together, given where they are, where the tenant is in the continuum of asking and getting for, did you send this to your landlord?
3 forms. What were the?
There are 4. There's the repair letter. Dear landlord, this is the issue. Please fix it. Dear landlord, I told you about this issue. Please fix it. Dear landlord, I'm not paying rent because I told you about this. That's rent withholding. I don't know. Repair and deduct is different from rent withholding. Can you answer, Tim?
I mean, it's the same idea though. So repair and deduct. You're saying I made the repairs myself because you didn't make them.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So those 4 go together pretty naturally, wouldn't you think? Or no?
Yeah, but I only wrote down 3. So it's repair demand letter, repair and deduct, rent withholding demand letter. What's the other?
The first one is just there's a repair letter and there's a repair demand letter.
Oh, okay.
The first one is just
I haven't used Hello Landlord. That's national. Does that cover any of these things? Or, I mean, I know it's a lot more.
I'm trying to think what the issue with Hello Landlord is because our people didn't like it. But I don't remember.
I mean, I tried their CDC thing and I wasn't too impressed.
Yeah, maybe. There was something they didn't like about it. I think it masked it may be because it's national, it was masking some other right, or it was citing the wrong statute, or I don't remember what the issue was, but we didn't like it.
I mean, I think adding in the repair demand and the repair and deduct, those are really specific Massachusetts.
Yeah, so, and the first one is just repair. And repair is saying, I told you about this last week, now I'm actually writing to you. So
I like that as a product that takes these 4 things that are otherwise just straight to fill in, print out, and puts them on the decision tree of like, okay, you have a need for a repair. What happened?
And the nice thing is you can send them a reminder, hey, come back in a month. You can send them a text message. Hey, did you ever follow up on that? Did your landlord fix the problem?
Yeah.
We're going to use up all of our text message budget.
And then if you wanted to, you could include Form 14, this is a court form, tenant petition for enforcement of the state sanitary code.
Okay, and that probably could go part of the earlier package. The only thing there is you have to have an ISD report, or Board of Health, whatever your town has.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is it can be this continuum if you have, depending on what stage you're at, you can do all of these in one, whatever.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
So the only thing I would say is thinking about scoping here. I worry now if we add that on, it's like adding a whole court form on top of this thing. So maybe that one, if it's just the letters, it's the letters. And then if it's a situation where you need to escalate, then it says, then look at this other
Yeah.
form.
That makes
So
sense.
we pull it out. Because part of what we're trying to do here is scope things so that we have projects we can assign out.
Yeah, and that would be, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
We could make them linked still in some way, like say we could prompt people to load their information if they had followed the earlier chain, and we could also direct people as a next step. Hey, it looks like you've exhausted all of these things. Call ISD, get your certified report, and then file a petition to enforce.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
It's a good list.
Is there more? This is so exciting.
Something can I suggest some, or are you still, Caroline?
Yeah.
I'd be interested in seeing, and it might be hard to do, like the form is like the divorce answer and counterclaims. They're simple forms. I just feel like it would take a little bit of thought on the guidance, because it's kind of in the abstract. It's like, okay, look at paragraph 1 of their complaint, you know.
Right.
So,
I started.
but the forms themselves are pretty simple.
Well, the issue is the form is simple, but the questions that you need to ask in the interview are on you. I mean, that's substantive, and we don't have those right now. I started actually one for the child support answer. In fact, it's in A to J author and it's waiting to be tested. So we might be able to convert that if you wanted to do a child support answer.
Well, I was thinking the divorce answer.
I know. Well, divorce answer. Well, maybe the divorce answer is pretty straightforward. I mean, the thing is with a divorce answer, is it a existing form right now?
Yeah, divorce answer and counterclaim are standard forms.
Are they on the court website?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they're standard, I mean, you know what we should need to do is check with is her name Mina? Quentin, what's the woman's name who's working on the divorce?
Oh man, pushed it out of my head, but
starts with an M. So I just check with her, Kate, and see if she's including that in her bundle.
Oh, Melina,
yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I like the idea of having those is because they have the 20-day deadline, and people typically aren't getting connected with a legal aid lawyer in that 20-day deadline.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll go for it. I mean, I'm not. It's just because I have the book, the housing court book, and the housing forms books. I'm just going through our list because I figure let's just do it.
Yeah.
Are somebody putting these on the triage form? Okay.
Yeah,
and I've taken off the ones that I'm like, I think these are too dangerous. So we could maybe review some of the ones that I left on that we have still passing over if we get to that point. But I also feel like this is good. Generating is more helpful so far.
All right. Because Kate, I'm not trying to I figure I'll just go through this list so they have the list, and then we could do family and figure out, go through family, and then we can prioritize what goes where. But I think if you're saying the divorce answer, let's do that one. I just don't know where it is.
I'm adding it.
Okay.
Yeah, Kate, it looks like Kate has a link to it there.
Yeah, it's like one of those,
It's one of those ones that won't open on my computer.
Divorce and
you have to it's the annoying thing.
Right.
The thing they did that they thought was helpful to make it interactive, but then just means people can't use it.
Exactly.
Well, I
have a pretty good workflow for flattening these now.
What is that?
I'm curious.
Print to PDF?
Yeah, just print to PDF. You have to have the right driver on your
great workflow.
You can't have Acrobat only. You have to have Acrobat and some other PDF.
Yeah.
What are the special things about it that made them choose to not use a regular PDF?
Because I think they got a different program. They got a different program. They're using Adobe InLive or in something inside. They're not using the plain old Adobe editor, whatever that one was.
Yeah, this doesn't have anything interactive on it. Okay, so it's just looks really simple, as you said, but of course there's a lot of meat to it because of you referring back to the paragraphs.
Right. It would just take some guidance of, and like, is this
That's
true?
good.
Is this false? Is it partially true? Say what's true, say what you need to edit,
Is the
That's good.
complaint for divorce always following those same numbered?
Yeah. The complaint for divorce is a standard form. It's basically the plaintiff lives here, the defendant lives here, we were married here, and then
So
the marriage is broken down. This is what I want.
So you could like always know how to explain what's in paragraph 1.
Yes. It would be that would be standard.
Well, that actually doesn't sound too bad, really.
No.
Like it would be pretty. Yeah, you add a lot of value just with that, and then plus people being able to fill it out.
I feel like I could take a stab maybe at some of it. I don't know how to do the labeling of the PDF because I don't have the
That's
day.
okay. Part of what we're trying to
Interview, right? I mean,
also part of what we're trying to do with generating this list is get stuff for the students to do. So
Cool.
As I was trying to explain earlier, like there might be things that we could do more quickly if we just all did them, but we can't do everything. So the point is there are things that are not going to get done just because there's bandwidth. And I think the best way to sort of, what we're always wanting is we want to like clone Quentin, right? And so the best way to clone Quentin is to start training baby Quentins and releasing them into the world and having them go out and do their practice and have an effect. So yeah.
Well, if you put a student on that, I would commit to like providing what the
SME
stuff. Yeah.
Perfect.
I should say we also added to the list the 258E, and I think we're kind of more committed.
Oh, that's a bear.
I know, but I think we're thinking maybe for the lit lab. So people who are committed, maybe up to renewing next year, but also 3 of the 4 have been on the project.
we had some substantive experts who were committed to helping with that. Do you remember that, Kate? It wasn't you. We had
do
to
have
Me,
some.
because I've only done like 2 of those.
No, I think it might have been Court Service Center. I can't remember who it was.
I think it was Court Service
So
Center and Victim Rights Law Center.
Yeah, Victim Rights Law
Michelle gave
Center.
me some other names too after one of the talks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also the form that people at the court keep bringing up to us when they hear about our projects. So
What do they keep bringing up? Oh, 258E.
that's when we do the 258E. They're like, oh, have you done the 258E?
Well, would you like to start accepting our 209A? But anyhow.
Well, that's a service center. You know what? I would be
They're
surprised
different.
if they're not
Of course,
using
not
it,
a monolith.
right? Sorry, can we say
And
that?
I feel like with the 258, yeah, I mean, there are other safety concerns. I feel like they're different than the 209A, and I feel like they're not typically like the all-encompassing DV relationship that your abuser's not going to be typically in your home with a 258E. So I feel like, I don't know, I'd be comfortable with like maybe a slightly lower MVP than we did with the 209A.
Sure. Well, and also we've
It's
done the
part of the
209A. I mean, so many of those questions aren't.
Oh, yeah. Plaintiff and defendant information forms are identical.
I was also thinking with guidance as well, that even if we get something that's not releasable with our first round of volunteering and student help, I've seen that having a draft done on the 209A was helpful ultimately for coming up with the final product.
Absolutely.
It helped get us a lot closer. So it's like really meaningful work product, even if it's not releasable at the end of.
So the thing about that is on you guys is to make students, it's so rewarding to see your form up there online live. So what do the students who are working on the ones that aren't going to be live right away?
Yeah, this would not, to be clear, this would probably be for students who are not just this semester.
Yeah.
So they'd have a longer.
They could be invested for a longer period, so they could stay involved.
Let's make a determination now if we want to move over to. I would love to get some more. If we could finish Caroline's list, but then we should think about all the folks who are now coming on for Teaching Tuesday.
Right, we wanted to have a split between discussion with Mike Carroll, hi Mike, and then going over Luke and Anna's labels for their form for the PDF, which I think will be quite useful because we haven't really done one of these in a while.
And hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, this is Matt. Sorry, it's my wife. I'm trying to change it on the shared computer.
All right, no worries.
It was exciting. a new name, but
A new name.
Yeah, sorry. I can get her to stop by if you want.
Even what's it, Robbie Rubs and
Yeah.
So
Caroline, do you want to finish out that list real quick?
I think we're pretty much,
Is that housing out?
that's pretty much it. The other things, there's a tenant, no, it's not that one. I think that's it. Quentin's got this book, you guys, so I think you're.
No, but that was, I hadn't thought of the forms that way. That
You might want the moving out checklist. And then these others, we've got the lockout utility shut off demand letter, but that's already a TRO. You know, I mean, we already have those, right? We already have the TRO lockout utility shut off, right? So
yeah, that's
the
exactly
to dismiss, we have in various forms. You don't need a sample execution, tenant survey, no. Sample collective bargaining agreement.
Doesn't seem like it is really an automated thing. You're going to be
No, this is all tenant organizing.
Yeah.
You might want a sample rent offer letter. Yeah.
Okay.
Where you talk about the following are among the conditions of disrepair that exist in my unit. Maybe this is when you first move in. Sample rent offer letter.
Okay.
Tenant group to landlord. Sample tenant organizing flyer. This is all tenant organizing. That's it. That's it for here.
That's a really great list, Caroline. That's very, very helpful. I love those all.
And maybe we'll think a little bit more, Kate and I, after we get this other stuff done, is think about more basic family law forms.
Yeah, so just to give you an idea of timelines, Quentin and my students will be starting choosing forms to work on in basically over the next 3 weeks. So I have students who are probably already ready to start working on some of these. So yeah, so the sooner we can get a list in here, but I like this as a pipeline.
I'm trying to think the other thing, I don't have them here. I had them here somewhere, I thought, is we might talk about some benefits forms, but maybe not this, maybe not this semester, but maybe those might be an issue. And those are in
So I think those are good to add some diversity. I like that too.
Yeah, those are in the advocacy guides. A lot of them are like release letter. There are a lot of them of DOR forms, but they're hard to read and stuff.
Do we want to finish this up some other time?
Yeah, that was all great stuff.
Okay.
Oh, so you can talk with Michelle about criminal record sealing. Oh, you just texted. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. That was a direct message, but Michelle asked me to finish up a big project with helping people seal juvenile records. Just great. I'll link.
Yeah, are we talking about the juvenile sealing?
Yeah, they're live.
Yeah.
Give me some copy for that, and we can put that on the main page.
Sure. Harlan was supposed to be talking to you about giving some kind of talk or something. It's never clear with Harlan exactly what he's going on about. But
we haven't talked in a while, so or maybe I missed his. Oh, you know what?
There's your message.
I'm looking to see if he messaged me and I just haven't checked in he hasn't directly messaged me yet. Okay, I just thought I hadn't checked somewhere.
Okay, well, I'll drop him a message, and we're coordinating with GBLS and Citizens for Juvenile Justice for copies. So there's 3 organizations involved. So I don't know when that's coming, but and on to adult sealing.
Exciting, very exciting. All right. Let's move on to Teaching Tuesday.
Okie dokie. I'm going to stop this recording and I'm going to start.